Well, good morning. And good morning to all of you joining us online. John and Brenda, I know you're watching. Good morning. And Doug and Susan, I know you're watching. Scott, Peanut, Tanner, I know you're out there watching, and I just appreciate this. Good morning to all of you who have gathered in the auditorium, and I see faces that I haven't seen since March of last year. And so good to have you, good to see you. If you're joining us for the first time, whether online or in person, I'm currently preaching a sermon series entitled Rising Above Life's Challenges. I got bad news. You ready for some bad news? If your life isn't currently challenging, it will be, and perhaps soon. You ask, Ronnie, how in the world would you know that? I know a little bit about your enemy, the devil. I know that he will eventually create problems for you, turn some people against you, surround you with temptations. Why? He wants you to give up before you grow up. God's plan is to change you dramatically. So dramatically that when others are around you, they see Jesus in you. Therefore, from the moment you were saved until the moment you leave this earth, you're on a transformational journey. The devil wants to derail that journey so that you never fully evolve or grow into the person that God wants you to be. So, at some point, he will make life hard. And then he's going to attempt to shake your faith. And if he succeeds, he's going to unsheath his most lethal weapon, discouragement. I know that all this sounds like bad news, but I do have some good news. You can rise above all life's challenges. You can keep going and keep growing no matter what the devil throws at you. You can actually feel good and continue to do good even when life isn't so good. How? What does it take to rise above life's challenges? In order to answer that question, we've been studying the Bible. In particular, we've been studying the New Testament book of 1 Thessalonians. The believers who made up the church at Thessalonica faced incredible challenges. But rather than giving up, they rose up. In spite of great challenges, these believers not only survived, well, they thrived. And here's what I believe. If they could rise above life's challenges, so can we. If we know and apply their secrets. And what were their secrets? Here's what we've learned so far. Secret number 1 was the Bible. Secret number 2 was hope. And last week we learned this. Secret number 3 was intercessors, people who pray for us. And this morning I want to share secret number 4. Secret number 4 is encouragers. To rise above life's challenges, we're going to need encouragement. Encouragement that will counter or offset the devil's discouragement. And what is discouragement? I want you to really get this, really hang with me right here. What is discouragement? Discouragement is theft. The devil discourages us when he robs us of what we need to keep going. Now, it's just critical stuff. The devil discourages us when he robs us of what we need to keep going. He will say things to us. Hey, listen, think of me what you want. I think this man's crazy. He's up there saying that the devil is going to talk to us. You better believe he will. It's the way that he robs us of what we need to keep going. It's the way that he discourages us. He will say things to us that are designed to rob us of confidence, joy, willpower, courage, etc. He will say things like, well, this is never going to work. And even if it does, it's just not worth the trouble. If I were you, here's what I would do. I'd just quit. Some of you are going, holy mackerel. I've been hearing that in my head. I know. Or he'll say something like this. You know, you're really doing a fine job at what you're doing. But in the grand scheme of things, what you're doing doesn't really matter. So, if I were you, here's what I would do. I would just quit. He'll say something like this, look around. Nobody else seems to care, so why should you? If I were you, here's what I would do. I would just quit. You know you're never going to make it. You're going to give up. It's just a matter of time. So why don't you just cut your losses and quit? This is a small sampling of the worn out but time-tested phrases the devil uses to discourage us. You see, he doesn't really have to come up with anything new because his old approach is still extremely effective. In my 34 years of pastoral experience, I'd have to say that the poison of discouragement has stopped far more Christ followers than anything else I'm aware of. However, as lethal as discouragement is, there is an antidote. Give you one guess. Encouragement. I want us to read from the book of 1 Thessalonians. By now, most of you know their story. The believers who made up the church there were facing major challenges, and Paul, their founding pastor, was so concerned about them that he sent a man named Timothy to help them. And exactly what did Paul want Timothy to do? Well, look at this verse, 1 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 2. Paul said, we sent him to strengthen you, to encourage you. Timothy went and he spent some time with him. He came back to Paul. When he did, he brought him good news. The devil's efforts to discourage the Thessalonians was failing miserably. The people weren't discouraged. Not at all. Why not? Contrary to what you and I might think, it wasn't anything that Timothy had done. When Paul learned how well the Thessalonians were doing, he wrote them a letter. And in the letter, he pointed out the secret to their success. Look at this verse, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11. Look what he said. He said, so encourage each other. That's what I want you to do. I want you to encourage each other, and I want you to build each other up. Are you seeing this next line? Just as you are already doing. The Thessalonians had found the antidote for discouragement. Encouragement. And they were administering that antidote liberally. Before discouragement could take hold, these Christ followers would step in and encourage one another. They refused to sit idly by and let their brothers and sisters just quit. They literally lifted each other up above life's challenges with encouragement. And here's the lesson. You ready for the big lesson? Encouragers lift us above life's challenges. That's worth noting again. Encouragers lift us above life's challenges. Therefore, to keep going and keep growing, we must have encouragers in our life, in our world. In light of this lesson, what are we going to do? We must encourage each other. You with me? We are going to have to encourage each other. Encouragement is powerful stuff. Encouragement restores. Here's what I mean by that. When the devil is discouraging us, he robs us of things like confidence. You know what encouragement does? It restores the confidence, somebody else's confidence. He robs us of things like joy. I tell you what encouragement does, restores the joy. Whatever the devil has managed to take from us through this process of discouragement, encouragement is so powerful it puts all that back. Encouragement revives. It'll breathe new life into somebody. Paul even explained this to the Thessalonians. He said, you know, what the way you're living has encouraged me. He said, this is another way I'd put it. It's breathed new life into me. That's what he said. Encouragement repairs all the damage that the devil inflicts upon a person through discouragement. Encouragement has the power to repair the damage. And get this. No, you got to hear this. Anyone can be an encourager. Old people like myself, we can be an encourager. Young people can be an encourager. It doesn't require a certain personality type or spiritual gift. I don't know that I have that gift. Don't matter. I'm not very outgoing. Doesn't matter at all. It doesn't require years of spiritual growth. One of these days when I'm a spiritual giant, maybe I'll step into that realm and try to start encouraging people. You don't have to have a seminary degree. As a matter of fact, it might work against you. Any of you, let me just say this, any of you can be an encourager. You can make a real impact. You can make a difference. All you have to do is start encouraging people. Can I show you how? Good. Paul's primary purpose in writing the letter to the Thessalonians was to encourage them. Therefore, as we read this letter, we can learn from the Apostle Paul's example exactly how to encourage someone. But before we get to the how-tos, I felt like there were 3 lessons about encouragement we just couldn't afford to jump over. I want to share them with you. Lesson number 1, people can't be encouraged enough. The Thessalonians are already encouraged. Paul had stated that very clearly. Yet he writes them a letter back so that he can do what? Encourage them. Does that sound odd to you? I know you're encouraged, so let me take this moment to encourage you. What's he doing? What's he thinking? He knew how relentless their enemy was. He knew that the devil was going to go straight to work to try to discourage them again. So Paul poured the encouragement on, and then he even told them, you got to keep doing the same for each other. You know, one of the reasons I'm absolutely convinced that discouragement is so effective against believers. You know one of the reasons I believe it is? Because we do such a poor job at encouraging one another. We either assume that's what somebody else is taking care of that, or we assume this. I think I encouraged somebody 5 or 6 months ago. I've got to carry them 4 or 5 years. Truth is, you can't overdo encouragement. Nobody's going to overdose on encouragement. The devil is relentlessly trying to discourage every believer. So we have to be relentless in our effort to encourage them. Lesson number 2, one source of encouragement just isn't enough. The legendary Apostle Paul wrote them a letter of encouragement and told them, you make sure everybody reads my letter. Wouldn't you think that'd do it? Wouldn't you think that'd be enough? Paul didn't. Paul told them twice, in addition to what I'm doing for you, you've got to keep encouraging one another. You know what I hope? I hope that each and every Sunday morning when you come to church that you are encouraged. I hope that. But if this is the only source of encouragement you get is in this service, you are vulnerable to discouragement. Every one of us have to have multiple sources of encouragement in our life. Lesson number 3, everyone needs encouragement. Paul exhorted the Thessalonians, you got to encourage the weak. In other words, there are going to be people that you know in your church that are showing symptoms of discouragement. You know, the enemy is effective. You got to encourage those people. Well, what was Paul doing when he wrote the letter back? He's encouraging the strong. You know, here's the thing about encouragement. It's both corrective and preventative in nature. So in other words, if somebody is showing the symptoms of discouragement, encouragement will correct that. But if somebody, I tell you what we can do to prevent someone from ever getting there. Keep the strong encouraged. Listen, if you know somebody who's getting it done. You know somebody who's making a difference. That person should be on the top of your list to encourage. Those lessons, now how do you do it, okay? Number one, we encourage people through our example. You ready? You with me? Now, when the Apostle Paul wrote this, he's going through some stuff now. He described it as troubles and suffering. That's what I'm going through. And he wrote them and he said, now in the midst of my troubles and suffering, I've been greatly encouraged. Didn't just say I've been encouraged. The words of the Bible was, I've been greatly encouraged. And then he explained why. Your example. Watching you face and rise above your challenges has encouraged me that I can do the same. Two things you can be sure of. When life is challenging for you, life's also challenging for somebody in your world. Maybe even more so. You can be sure of that. It's not just you. And the second thing you'll be sure of is they're watching you. They're watching you to see how you handle this. If they look at you and see that when anybody else would be depressed, you still have joy, you've kept your sense of humor. They look at you and say, well, anybody else would be terrified. They're at peace. I mean, they look at you and see that, anybody else would probably be raising a white flag and turning back. Not you. They're going with a full head of steam. You know what your example can do? Your example can inspire people and encourage people. So one of the ways we do this is we do this with our example. Number two, we encourage people with love. One of the things Paul commended them for is the way they loved each other. And this is what he said, you show each other. You demonstrate love. I mean, for you, love's not just a matter of word. It's you think of things that you could do for each other to make it very clear that you love each other. And for that reason, you're encouraged by it. You're encouraging one another through those demonstrations, those acts of love. Promise you this, it's a very powerful way to do this. Before I went into ministry, I was working for a company and Singer that was known at that time as, and Pickens known as, and the company was known as Singer. I was a supervisor, had 3 crews that reported to me. And the division of Singer that I was working in had fallen upon hard times. There was one department making any profit. It was my department. Now you'd think that they would have patted me on the back, applauded me when I walked by. There's the supervisor, the one supervisor whose department's making a profit. Look at him go, you know what? This was the decision they made. If he's making money, they can make more money. So rather than applauding us, they pressured us. And I'd have these meetings with the guys that I reported to, my department head, my plant manager, and they were like, you got to tighten the screws. We want more. We're going to work longer hours, more. Does that sound familiar? Huh? So I would find myself constantly arguing with them, trying to defend my employees, I felt like, who were already overworked. And Chris, for the most part, I lost those arguments, and I'd have to go back to the people that reported me and give them the bad news. And so upper level management, they hated the side of me. My employees started hating the side of me. Oh, Lord, here he comes. What's he going to say? And I remember leaving there one day thinking, everybody in the world hates me. I was so discouraged. I had to go by the babysitter to pick up my little girl, Amy. And Ferber, you know these people well. Frank and Judy Crow, they kept my little girl before she started school. People who are salt of the earth. I'm telling you, salt of the earth. So, I pull up. I got to tell you, man, I'm just beat down. I go to the door. Here, Judy's got Amy ready. I get Amy. I get her bag, and then she reaches and she grabs this Tupperware bowl. And I'm going to tell you something. And I know my wife's going to hear this statement. I don't, Judy Crow makes the best spaghetti in the world. And she knew that I loved it. And she said, before you go, I made spaghetti today, and I thought of you. And she handed me that bowl. Listen, this is over 35 years ago. And I haven't forgotten it. She put that bowl in my hand. I burst into tears. I kept trying to explain to her, man, I've had a horrible day, and I couldn't. I just weakly, pathetically said, thank you. I drove home and I heated my spaghetti, and I remember vividly tears dropping off of my face into the spaghetti as I ate it. You know what that little act did? 35 years ago. It encouraged me. She showed me something. Everybody don't hate you. We can encourage each other with simple little acts and expressions of love. And then number 3, and I got to park here for a minute, we encourage each other with words. You say, well, I wouldn't know what to say. Hey, they pay me to kind of tell you what you can say that would encourage another human being. Here's something you can do. Tell people you pray for them. Now, there's a prerequisite to that. You got to be praying for them. You can't be a hypocrite, can't be a liar. But when people you pray for, you ought to tell them, I'm praying for you. You say, well, I don't want to get any credit. No, listen. You need to tell them. That's one of the first things Paul did when he wrote the letter. He said, I want y'all to know that I'm praying for you. Over and over in the letter, he kept saying it, reiterating, I pray for you, I pray for you, I'm praying for you. And so I want you to know that people, if you want to encourage somebody, people you're praying for, tell them you're praying for them. But you got to take it a step further. If you really want to have an impact, tell them how you pray for them. Paul said, I pray for you constantly. I pray for you earnestly. I pray for you specifically. Throw one more in there. Paul told them what he was praying for. Now you're listening to me, right? Encouragement's powerful stuff. Everyone can be an encourager. Encouragement's so powerful it'll lift people above life's challenges. You want to encourage them? You tell them this. You tell them that you're praying for them. You tell them how. And you tell them what you're praying for. A couple of months ago, and Beverly, I'm so sorry. I meant to text you and see if this was okay. I'm going to assume it is. If it's not, you can chew me out later. A couple of months ago, I got a call from Beverly, and she said, I need you to pray about some things. I said, okay, and I listened to her. And I said, I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's trade out. I need you to pray for me too. I said, my doctor biopsied this place on my shoulder, and he's kind of suspecting it's skin cancer. I said, so I want you to pray for me that it's not. And I want you to pray that while I'm in limbo, waiting on the results, that I'm not just freaked out about this, okay? So the next day, I'm working in the yard, Beverly calls me. She said, I want you to know that when I came home today, I prayed for you. And as I prayed, I started praying kind of unlike the way I normally pray. I started praying out loud for you. And she said, the more I prayed out loud, the louder I got. She said, Ronnie, I know what the Bible's talking about when it says cry aloud. She said, I want you to know that in my house today, I stood in the presence of God and cried aloud and begged him that you don't have cancer. What do you think it did for me? Huh? I knew immediately. I knew at that moment, I don't have anything to worry about. It was instant peace and instant encouragement to know that somebody would take my prayer request that seriously. You want to encourage somebody? Tell them you're praying for them. Tell them how you pray for them. Tell them what you're praying. And I promise you this, it'll have a powerful impact on them. Second is this, I would express appreciation, and it's kind of got a kissing cousin. I would share affirmation. Are there people that you thank God for? People you're really grateful for? Tell them. That's what Paul did. How many times just last week, and with the verse we read, Paul said, got to tell you, I thank God for you. And then just got to tell you, multiple times in one letter, he kept emphasizing how I thank God for you, how I thank God for you. And so you got to tell people, you go, they know. Listen to me. I want you to listen to me. They don't. You're kidding yourself. You say, I never really tell. I just know that they know. They do not know. If you don't get anything, get that. They don't know. There's a voice whispering in their head that they're worthless and what they do is worthless. That's what they're hearing constantly. That they have no value. They're not making a difference. That's what they're hearing. They got to hear it from you. I thank God for you. Now, you want to put some energy behind that? You want to give that some impact? Tell them why. Paul would say, I thank God for you. Now, let me be specific about this. Let me tell you why. Your faith produces work. Your love produces deeds. You respect the Bible and you're allowing it to work. Over and over again, he would say, let me tell you why I thank God. Try that. The other is affirmation. It's a little bit different. Affirmation is giving someone praise. I I run into super spiritual people. They're so spiritual. And they'll go, I ain't praising nobody but God. Paul didn't feel that way. He wrote the letter to give these people praise. You know what praise is? It's pointing out what somebody's doing that's right and giving them a hand. It's a pat on the back. It's an attaboy. Paul even told the Philippian church, he called a guy's name. He said, you know what you ought to do for a man like that? You ought to honor him. You ought to honor him. You tell me if I'm right on this. In your world, do you have some people whose spiritual gift is tearing you down? They love to point out perceived flaws, shortcomings. They love to tear you down. Man, I listen, I've pastored people, and I got to believe that they felt that was their calling in life. My job is to keep you humble by tearing you down. You know what we do for each other? We build each other up. We point out the things that we're doing that is right. We point out the things to others that they're doing that are making a positive impact in our lives. We point them out and we applaud. And listen, if you're not going to give praise, pass praise along. Tim McCall came to me the other day and he said he was talking with Leslie Pope, and Leslie had shared some things about our live stream, some very positive things. And so you know what I did? I went straight back to Grayson Williams, who's in charge of the live stream, and I made sure that he knew what she said. You can pass the praise along. Paul did that. He said, everybody's talking about you guys and what an influence you are. Give people praise. Pass praise along. Let's see how much time I got. Oh, I got time. Listen to me, man. You may be in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry. I got time. I've got you to 10:30, right? So I'm going to squeeze every minute of that out this morning. You ready? I took my lawnmower one time to Anderson Outdoor Power and Equipment. I want to use their name. And I want to put a bagger on it. So I took it down, they put the bagger on it, I'm driving home. This thought occurred to me. Those folks must have had me confused with somebody. You know why, David? They treated me like a king. They treated me like I was the best customer they've ever had. So I'm driving home thinking, wonder what happened there? You know? Because, you know, this thought came to me. Won't you tell them? I get home, I called Anderson Power and Equipment. I said, can I speak with the manager? The guy said, he's in the back and it'd take a long time. I don't even know if I can get him out here. He said, is there anything I could help you with? I said, yeah, I came in this morning. You put a bagger on my mower. I was treated like a king. I said, you couldn't have been more courteous, more professional, more prompt. I just not used to receiving service like that anywhere. And I just thought it was something I wanted to just affirm, and I wanted to say thanks. He said, can you hold a minute? I think I can get him. He said, he's going through some stuff. You know what he's saying to me? He's discouraged. He needs this. Now, you know what could prevent us from doing something like that? This old consumer mentality. Hey, they get paid to do that. So what? They do a good job. They're humans. Yeah, aren't they humans? They're discouraged. So, man, sometimes to encourage somebody, all you got to do is express appreciation, give them some affirmation. And then this last one says, share the Bible with them. The Bible will encourage people. Now, when I left Paul, in 1 Thessalonians 4, he taught them some doctrine. And after he taught them this doctrine, he said, I want you to encourage each other with these words, the words from the pages of the Bible. Now, I left my first church. It didn't end well. You guys know the story. But in my mind, I had this voice whispering saying, that was your one opportunity. You blew it, man. You have no hope for a future in ministry. It's all kaput. But I got a friend named Sherry Davenport. She didn't know what that voice was saying in my mind. She didn't know how discouraged I was. One day she showed up and she had a Bible verse that she'd had matted and framed. And she handed it to me and I looked at it and read it. It was Jeremiah 29:11. Said, for I know the plans for you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Just the counter to what the voice was saying in my head. What do you think I did with that? I went right over it in the living room and I hung it on the wall where I could see it constantly. It's right next to the back door. So anytime I went out the door, I read that verse. And for years, that verse encouraged me. So you can talk to them. You can tell people you're praying for them, how and what. You can share appreciation. I'm thankful for you, and here's why. You can affirm them. This is really working for me. I appreciate the fact that you do this. You can share the Bible with them. Now, I like to listen to a lot of podcasts, and I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guy was interviewing a young lady named Hannah Brincher. I don't know if you've ever heard of Hannah. Hannah graduated from college and she moved to New York City. She was an aspiring author. She was already a very successful blogger on the internet. She moved to New York City to start her writing career, and I'll just quote her. She said, "I was smacked in the face by depression." She said, "I was so discouraged." And she said, "It hit me. I'm not alone. I bet this city is full of people who are discouraged." So she started sitting down and handwriting notes of encouragement. And she would address them. "If you find this, it's for you." And anywhere she went in the city, she would hide these little notes. And one night on her blog, she shared with the people who followed her what she was doing. And she said, "If anybody's out there who would like a personal, handwritten note of encouragement, let me know." She went to bed. She got up the next morning. 400 total strangers responded and said, "I'll take anything I can get." Anything. It doesn't matter that I don't know you, you don't know me. I desperately need a good word. I desperately need encouragement. So you know what Hannah has done? She started an organization called Love Letters to Strangers. She now has a huge staff of people who work for her and countless volunteers. And to date, they have written hundreds of thousands of letters of encouragement to people whom they've never met. Do you understand something? Our country is starving to death for encouragement. That's bad. Can I tell you something worse? The church is starving to death for encouragement. We can fix that. Just like that. We can fix it. Now I want you to do something kind of crazy. So you've never heard me suggest this. How many of you have your phone with you right now? If you got your phone with you, dig it out. Get your phone out. Everybody, you got your phone. Online. I'm giving you permission. Get up, go, get your phone. I want everybody, if you got your phone, get your phone. Now, you can do this any way you want. You can text, you can email, you can send a message via Facebook, whatever you choose to do. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to encourage somebody before we leave today. You in? You in? Okay. For those of you online, I got six folks right here. Now listen to me, man. No, we got more than that. So here's what we're going to do. You think of somebody right now who's going through a firestorm of trouble in this world, who's hanging on by a thread. Or you think of somebody for whom you are extremely grateful. I mean, you're so grateful. Maybe it's been a while since you've told them this. Maybe somebody who's making a difference in your world. I mean, you see them getting it right, and you need to affirm them. Think about what you need to say to them. Don't have to be long. We don't have long. I told you 10:30. We got 4 minutes. Type them a message right now. Right now. I'm going to try. I can't already see. Don't anybody send it? You with me? Now online, hold on, don't send. Hang on. I should have, yeah. Do another one. If you don't have your phone, you'll be thinking about who you're going to text this afternoon, what you're going to say. And I know you can already see, God, he's so slow at typing. And I knew we were going to do this. Isn't that a shame? I said, Ronnie, you don't have to write a book. I know surely you're done. It took me so long. Surely you're done. Does anybody need any more time? Anybody need any more time? We ready? Out there online, you got yours ready? Everybody ready? What we're going to do, we're going to send out a blanket of encouragement, a wall of encouragement. Is everybody ready? Everybody hit send? 1, 2, 3. Bingo. Encouragement launched. Is that not the coolest thing ever? Okay. Homework. For at least the next week. Can't we encourage at least one person a day? Can we do that? Would you be willing to do that? I'll make a promise to you that I'll do that if you'll do that. Can we encourage at least one person a day for the following week? And guys, the reason I want to do that, I want it to become a part of our lifestyle. I want it to become part of our nature, part of the way we think and live. It just comes naturally to us to encourage those around us. Because listen, our encouragement could be the very thing that lifts them above life's challenges. Let's pray together. Just in these moments, there's someone that you need to talk to God about. Someone that you know is discouraged maybe, and you need to pray for them. Do so. And I want you to do something. You send them a message sometime this week and tell them about this prayer you're praying for them right now. Maybe you're thinking of an encourager. Thank God for them. And sometime this week, you message them and you tell them about this prayer you're praying right now. How you thanked God for them. I want you to make a commitment to God. That's a big statement for me. That's something big for me to ask. I want you to make a commitment to God this morning that with His help you're going to become an encourager. You're going to make it your life's work to build people up, to encourage them, to lift them up. I promise you it's worth devoting yourself to. You're going to be meeting an incredible need and making a great difference in somebody else's life. So, Father, I just want to thank you personally for my encouragers. They are legion. And what a difference they've made in my own life, my own world, my ministry. God, I thank you for them all. And this is what I pray. I pray that Golden Corner Church will be an encouraging church. And that the people that are listening to my voice right now, whether online or in person, that they'll be flooded with encouragement. That we will not allow each other to quit. We won't even allow each other to ever reach a point of real discouragement. Help us do that, God. In the name of Jesus, we pray together. Amen. You're dismissed. Don't forget your homework.